Welcome to Michelle's Making. Hope you're ready for coffee, crafts, cookies, and cocktails. Let's get going.
Welcome, and welcome back to those of you who are returning. I really do appreciate it. Vanilla caramel is the creamer of the day today. Today is National Radio Day. So let's turn on that radio music and enjoy it while we're crafting. We'll make it a good one. Let's get going.
Today we're going to make a chocolate chip walnut cookie. It is yummy. I'm not a huge fan of chocolate cookies, but this one is really tasty. We'll use all-purpose flour, cocoa, baking soda, granulated sugar, brown sugar, eggs, butter, vanilla, walnuts, and chocolate chips. Like most cookies, we begin by creaming the butter and sugar together. Now, this is a recipe that really doesn't call for overmixing. You just barely incorporate your ingredients together and that'll work. Once the sugars are incorporated, you add vanilla, and once that is mixed, you add the egg, and don't worry about the egg getting extremely well mixed. The biggest concern here is scraping down the bowl and the beater occasionally so that it does incorporate the ingredients. All the dry ingredients, the flour, cocoa, and baking soda and salt would get sifted together per usual, or if you don't have a sifter, just stir it together till it's well mixed, and then add it to your cookie batter a little at a time. If you put too much in, you end up with a dust cloud in your face. But as I said, not over mixing, just using the low to medium low setting on your mixer. Once the flour mixture is incorporated, you'll then add the walnuts and chocolate chips as the mixer is mixing on low. You know, I've been making a lot of different cookies and I give them out to family and friends, but everybody's getting a little concerned with the extra calories in their diet. So I've had some people say, no more cookies, no more cakes, no more pies, because it's just too much for them. Even my son and even myself, really, I don't need all this stuff sitting around the house tempting me. So I'm thinking of maybe doing some cooking rather than some cookies for my videos. What do you all think of that? Is there something you'd like to see me cooking? If so, let me know in the comments. But as usual, you spoon the batter onto a parchment lined cookie sheet, about a tablespoon and a half. And then push it down a little bit so the cookies have a chance to flatten properly. But there you go, a delicious chocolate chip walnut cookie. Our first craft today is a pumpkin stack. I had picked up 3 ceramic pumpkins at Dollar Tree and removed the labels from the bottom. You'll notice that there's a hole on the bottom, and that's important to be able to stack these. So I took off the labels and then I kind of played around with them a little bit to decide what order I wanted to put them in. 2 were almost the same shape and the other was a little bit longer, or I guess really taller, and I opted to put the taller one on top. I used my Gorilla Glue to glue them together, and in retrospect, I realized I should have painted them first. It would have made it a little bit easier. It wasn't too bad, but it did require a little touch-up of the different colored paint getting on each other. But learn from my mistakes, and if you do decide to make this, paint your pumpkins first. Now, I used 3 different fall-type colors to paint these pumpkins because my tablescape with all my fall decor is of the muted fall harvesty looking colors, but you can use any colors that happen to work with your decor. Even leaving these the shiny metallic looking is cute if that matches your decor, but I opted to paint. I used the pumpkin, the porch yellow, and hazelnut chalk paints. 1 for each of the pumpkins, and then I did a dry brushing of the antique wax to give it a little dimension. Now, some of these pumpkins do have an almost embossed type leaf form on them. And that was the case with the top one, but that didn't matter because after painting it did show, but I was going to cover that up with some leaves, as you'll see later. Of course, using my handy dandy heat gun to help dry the paint between colors and between coats. Now the hazelnut covered pretty good. I actually didn't have to give it a second coat, but the pumpkin I did need to give a second coat to. I did mix a little bit of the hazelnut in with my porch yellow color just to give it a little bit more of that harvest gold color. I used the antique wax to paint the stem of the pumpkin on the top. Dollar Tree has some great fall floral picks, and I had picked up a couple of leaf picks, one with the reddish colored leaves and one with the yellowish green colored leaves. It doesn't take too many of these leaves to go a long way, so you really get a bang for your buck there at Dollar Tree. I did trim off a few of the leaves. I used a couple of the reddish tone and a couple of the yellowish green tone. Using hot glue, I adhered one of each color to the top of the pumpkin and also a couple on the sides stuck between the pumpkins. I had picked up a hula skirt at a thrift shop, which was a good deal. This was an adult size, good quality. It was $1.99, and my goodness, I have used pieces of it for many projects, and I could still use it as a hula skirt. There's that much of it there, so it was a great deal. But I did use a little bit of it. It's just like raffia, and made a little bow for the top of the pumpkin. I didn't show it here, but I painted a candlestick that I had to stand this pumpkin stack on. And there you have it. Our next craft is a cornucopia. I picked this up at Habitat for Humanity. It was actually $10, which was a little bit pricey, I thought, but it's a very, very good quality. It's heavyweight, heavy iron for the frame, a nice glass apple off the side there that you see me taping up, because I'm going to take this out and spray paint it to give it some life. The basket was in really good shape, like I said, and I gave it a dry brushing with the antique wax paint just to kind of give it some life. It was a little bit older, but still in good shape. I used a piece of styrofoam I picked up at Dollar Tree and just a little dot of hot glue in each corner, not too much because it will melt the styrofoam. Now for the arrangement, everything I used came from Dollar Tree. Some I bought this year and some I had in my stash. You see the cattails there? I actually had those in my stash. And the little green sprigs that shoot off from each of it, I left initially. But later on, after I have it on my display, I really didn't care for those little green sprigs as much, so I cut those off, leaving the cattails. Now with flower arranging, dried arrangements, flowers, or whatever you're arranging, you really don't get too hung up on it. Just do what looks good to your eye and move things around. I loved these pine cone looking florals from the Dollar Tree. I was amazed at the quality of them. They're so cute. And again, just kind of putting them where I thought I liked them and arranging things. And if I didn't like it, I pulled it out and moved it around. You also see at the top of the screen, well, the left of the screen, some little blue pussy willow type twigs that I stuck in there. And in the end, I pulled those out because I didn't like it. It didn't look right with the rest of the arrangement. Just keep filling in until it looks good to you. Next, I took some ribbon strands, just a variety, all different fall browns and golds, and tied them together with a wire tie, which I was able then to use the stem piece of that wire tie to push down in the styrofoam to hold those ribbons in place. And there you can see I'm pulling out those pussy willows that I just didn't like and adding in a couple more leaves. Just add and fluff until it looks the way you like it. I realized then I haven't painted my apple yet, which was what I had planned to do from the beginning. Using the moss green chalk paint and my porch yellow chalk paint, mixing them together, I got a nice color that actually looks sort of like a Granny Smith apple, I thought. I don't know. What kind of apple do you think it looks like to you? Maybe it doesn't even look like a real apple. I don't know, but it looked cute and the colors matched my decor, so I was good with it. I realized then I needed to add a little strip of painter's tape to keep from getting on the black wrought iron there. And as I'm painting away, I'm thinking, well, why did I leave the basket in? And so then you see, I finally remember, oh, just take the basket out, continue painting the apple, and then put it back together when I'm done and it's dry. And there you have our cornucopia ready for my fall decor. And to go with that, our next craft is fall blocks. This is a really easy and inexpensive craft made using a pack of dice from Dollar Tree. And this came 4 dice to the pack. And I began it by painting with my Rust-Oleum chalk paint in linen white. I did have to give 2 coats to the dice to cover up all the color and the little dots that you wouldn't be able to see it through the paint. I cut out the letters for fall on my Cricut. And before adding them in, I decided to give some Mod Podge to the side that I was going to adhere the letters to. And I started out using transfer tape. I got the letter F on without any difficulty. But when I went to put the letter L on one of the blocks, it was a disaster. Well, not a disaster, but using the transfer tape I realized was not a smart idea because it pulled off the Mod Podge and the paint. I then decided to take the letters off of the transfer tape and just put them on individually with my fingers. And that worked much better. And then I touched up the disaster block that you see there with some more chalk paint and some Mod Podge, and it worked fine. I glued the blocks together in a stack, and then using my antique wax, I gave it all a dry brushing to kind of give it dimension and make it look old. I apologize that part wasn't filmed, but you can see here, very easy just to glue them together. And I did stagger them a little. I didn't want them in a straight line. Our next project is a Decor Makeover. Now this frame I've had for years and years and years, but it kind of was getting that old and I've seen it too many years thing. So I decided to give it a makeover, just a touch up with some white or the Rust-Oleum chalk paint in linen white. I'm going to use to dry brush the frame and give it a little bit more of a farmhouse look, which goes more with my decor now. Taped off the inside of the picture before beginning. Remember, when you're dry brushing with any color on any item, go as light or as heavy as you like and what looks good to you. I typically will start out pretty light with, unless my hand gets heavy and I give a big heavy splotch to start with, but typically I start with a very light brushing and then continue to go back over it and add more. As you can see here, I started out quite light, but then I did go back and go a little bit heavier in some areas. All right, once that had dried and I removed the tape, I noticed that there was a little bit of a spot. I'd noticed it before and hadn't really done anything about it, but there's a spot below the sunflower where some of the print had come off years ago, and I decided I would just touch that up with some paint and make it look like a leaf, because there were other leaves on the painting and there was, I mean, the shape was almost like a leaf anyway. So I just added multiple layers of different colors. I did some of the moss green, some of the pumpkin orange, and some of the yellow, just kind of blending it together. And then I used the antique wax to do what would look like the vein inside a leaf and highlighted that a little. But all in all, I thought it turned out halfway decent, and I like it better than I did the black spot that was there before. Next, I needed to make a bow for the top. I had this autumn print ribbon that I had picked up. I don't know if I got it at Dollar Tree or Hobby Lobby. I had it in my stash. I think I got it at Dollar Tree actually, but it was only printed on one side. So you have to do the fold over, twist under your thumb before you fold back method if bow making. So I did that and started out with the leaf one as I am showing you here, and used some clamps to hold that in place while I started working on the burlap ribbon, which was going to be behind it. My plan was, and you'll see here, I'm making it with the burlap behind it and the leaf print in the front. And I hung it on the wall that way, and I looked at it for a week or two and realized I didn't like that leaf print bow. It just didn't seem to work for that picture. I liked the burlap ribbon, so I ended up in the end taking off. That's why the picture at the beginning and the end of this portion of the video has just burlap ribbon on it, because I did change it out and make it only burlap. I did make the tails out of burlap also, so I used 2 small pieces to do that. And I also like working with the burlap because it is double-sided, so you don't have to twist it under your thumb. That gets a little bulky and difficult to hold on to sometimes. With this, you could just go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, which is what I did. But it is a thicker and heavier ribbon, so I did have to cut notches in the middle, just a little clip in the middle on each side, so that when you secure it all together with the zip tie, it gets a good tight grip. It goes into the center through those notches, as you can see there. So I got that all cinched together, and then of course remember that cardinal rule to bow making: every good bow needs a good fluffing. So fluff it up till you get the look that you like. Normally I put the tails through the zip tie there, but for this particular bow I purposely didn't want that, because I wanted the ribbons to go out to the side at the top there and not cover up the words "give thanks." I did pinch the 2 pieces for the tail together and used a small zip tie to keep them together, and then I hot glued that to the frame, and I also did a little dot of hot glue on the tails to keep them out of the picture. Like I said, I didn't want to cover up the "give thanks." But I did that, and then I attached the bow on top of that. I really love the way this piece of decor looks now, and it matches my overall decor so much better. There you have it, our decor makeover. Well, you know what time it is now? It's time for that delicious adult beverage, a Kinky Melon Martini. We're going to make this over ice in the shaker using Kinky Blue, melon liqueur, and the Jose Cuervo ready to drink Margarita mix. Add everything to your shaker. Shake it up good. You want it nice and chilled. And you're going to pour it into that chilled martini glass. Remember, I told you martinis are so easy to make, quick and easy, and delicious. Enjoy our Kinky Melon Martini.
Well, folks, that's it for another week. Thank you so much for sticking with me. I do appreciate it. I want to thank all my subscribers and thank those of you who have been sharing my video. I really do appreciate that. Let's make time to stop and smell the coffee. Make it a great week, and I'll see you next Friday.